Hello everyone, and welcome to some MiSTer FPGA news. This week, we will be talking about cores Jotego released to the public, an in-development I/O board that fits inside a Sega Saturn case, some future core updates, and more. So let's get to it. Jotego has released a beta for his JT Kiwi core. Unfortunately, it doesn't support the New Zealand story yet. Instead, it supports Insector X, a game that uses the same hardware as the New Zealand story. Insector X is a horizontal shooter developed by Hotbee and released by Taito. It was released in 1988. You control an insect warrior taking on giant cyborg insects. The game has a cartoonish art style to it, but it originally wasn't supposed to have that style. It was originally being developed using more realistic looking insects, but right in the middle of development, Taito asked the developers to make the game with cute and childish characters. However, the original realistic art style wasn't thrown away. The home port of the Genesis version was designed to use that more realistic art style. The Insector X core is only available to Patreon subscribers now. Jotego also took a lot of cores out of beta and put them out to the public. These games include Block Block, Capcom World, Dokuben, Hypersports, Karate Champ, Kicker, Konami's Ping Pong, Mikey, or Mickey, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Roc'n, Road Fighter, Roc'n Rope, Super Basketball, and Super Pang. You can obtain these cores by just running the update all script. If you want your MiSTer FPGA to look just like a console, there might be an I/O board coming out in the future that will help you do just that. Joel Wybro on Twitter designed an I/O board that will fit inside a Sega Saturn case. It's not complete yet and still in the design phase, but his Twitter post gained some popularity and some suggestions were given. An important suggestion was to use Sega Saturn Model 2 cases instead of the original Model 1. This is because replacement Model 2 cases can easily be bought online, preventing any destruction that might happen with original cases. It's ideal to keep original hardware intact if there are replacements already available. So Joel Wybro is going to take these suggestions and look into adding support for Model 2 cases. I always read about users looking for options on how to install a MiSTer into real console cases, and this I/O board will help you do just that. I recently posted a video that shows you how to build emitters for the GunCon 3 in case you lost your original emitters or you bought a GunCon 3 off eBay that didn't have them. These emitters can be quite expensive if you try to buy them on eBay. If you don't want to build your own emitters, you can purchase them from MiSTer Add-ons for $20. That's a lot cheaper than the price you find for original ones on eBay. Also, if you have a GunCon 2, MiSTer Add-ons also sells a sync breakout board for it. Core developer Roc'n has posted about the cores they are working on. The plan is to release cores for Gradius and Super Locomotive in the first quarter of next year. Gradius is a side-scrolling shooter by Konami, and Super Locomotive is, I don't know what to call it, a train sim? Well, Wikipedia says that it's a side-scrolling train action game. This is not a hard release date. Remember, these developers work on their free time developing these cores, so life may get in the way and the release date might be pushed. Roc'n is also working on a Darius core, and work on it is still ongoing, and unknown when a release is coming. This game is going to be quite interesting to run on MiSTer because the arcade game ran with multiple monitors. And some big news for a future core. Roc'n announced that they are going to work on a Taito F3 core. The F3 was 32-bit hardware by Taito that ran a lot of their arcade games in the 90s. The games that ran on this hardware spanned multiple genres. You had puzzle games, you had beat 'em ups, you had shooters, sports games, and more. Zez Retro posted a setup guide for racing wheels on MiSTer FPGA. In the guide, he shows you how to get a racing wheel working with MiSTer. He's tested several driving wheels and talks about compatibility. There's even a buyer's guide if you're in the market to purchase a new racing wheel to play on MiSTer. Core developer Pierco posted an image of a core that he started to work on. The image shows that he's working on the arcade game Crazy Blocks. Crazy Blocks is an arcade puzzle game developed by Kawako. The main development stage of the PCXT Core is now complete. What this means is that the developer feels that the core is now functionally complete. As a result, the developer will not be able to devote as much time to the core anymore. However, bugs that are reported will still be fixed, and it's possible that more features will be added in the future. Before anyone reports a bug, the developer asks to test the same situation on real hardware or a software emulator like PCM. This will help identify if it's a core issue or just a software configuration issue. If a bug you encounter also happens on real hardware and the software emulator, then that points to a software configuration issue. If the bug only happens on the core, then it's most likely an issue going on with the core. There's also been a new splash screen and credits screen added to the core. It's possible to have your name listed in the credits if you make a contribution. Contributions such as helping develop the core, add a new feature, or contributing to support platforms like Patreon or Ko-fi will get your name appearing on this screen. For this week's PlayStation updates, there were several fixes. Fixes include a hang in Gradius, long loading times in Simple Series Billard, a sound loop in Alien Resurrection, a Chrono Cross crash when Turbo was enabled, and a hang when loading save states in 480i games was fixed. The developer is also playing around with some new features. These features include doubling the CPU clock speed and also adding some additional cache. As a result, you can get some significant frame rate improvements. On the image the developer posted on Twitter, without these new features enabled, the game Revolt is running around 20 frames per second. But when you enable the doubling of the CPU clock and the additional cache, the game can now even hit 50 frames per second. It's not a stable 50 frames per second, but that's a huge improvement. And other miscellaneous MiSTer fixes and updates are, for the Iron M72 core, high score saving is now supported. This was implemented by ZAC4223. Image Flight can now calculate stage completion percentages correctly. MRAs for Air Duel and Daiku no Gensan were added thanks to Work. And there were some MRA updates by Toy A and Shermo Bianco. So that's it for other updates. Please also try to support Swords, the maintainer of the MiSTer project, and other MiSTer developers and contributors on support platforms such as Patreon and Ko-fi. Their hard work allows us to enjoy this amazing project. So that's it for this week's episode. I provided links to all my sources in the description. Make sure you also check out RetroRGB.com to see my MiSTer news videos in blog form and to get more retro related content. And if possible, support them on Patreon too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and its bell icon so you can get notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.